Hi guys, my name is Kieran. I'm a freelance director who has worked with Arts Active on a few occasions, and I'm here today to talk to you a bit about storytelling, or more specifically on how to create your very own short story. Now, the first thing to remember is every one of you is already a storyteller. We're all storytellers in our own way, whether that's a story we tell our friends, a story we tell our family. We start telling stories from a really young age. I definitely remember being on the playground when I was younger and making up stories for my friends to try and make them laugh. I mean, stories are everywhere. If you look at novels, plays, musicals, films, TV series, all of these things once started with a simple story idea that then got developed into something much bigger. So creating your own short story is a great way to, one, practice your storytelling, two, unlock your imagination and see what you can create, and three, they're just a really fun way to get your ideas out there. So today I'm going to take you through a few exercises which will help you sort of get all the little bits of a story you need and put them all together, so by the end you have your very own story that you made yourself. So let's start with finding an idea. How exactly do you go about finding this new, creative, exciting idea? Now, there are loads and loads of different ways in which writers and creatives will find new ideas for stories or shows. So today we're going to focus on two specific ways in which we can get a story started. So the first way is to focus on a character to start, and the second is to focus on a setting, or the place in which our story is going to take place. Now, writers will often take from their real life experiences. So they might know someone, or they might meet someone, or go somewhere, and they'll find it interesting enough that they'll want to write more about this place and find out more about it. So for the first exercise, what I'd like you to do, you can use the worksheet provided, or you can just use a pen and a piece of paper. And I'd like you to write down some people, places, or animals that you've met that you think it might be fun to write about. So now we have some characters and some places that we're interested in. It's time to go on to the next step, and that is asking some what-if questions. Now, this is something I do in order to make my characters or my setting a bit more interesting and come alive a bit for my story. So some examples might be, if I was to write about my nan, I might say, what if my nan was a superhero? Or if I was writing about a postman, I might say, what if a postman delivered mail to a haunted house? You really can be as wild and crazy as you like with these what if questions. Crazy ideas are good. The most important thing is just to ask what if questions that interest you. The more interested you are in these questions, then the more interested you'll be in taking them further and writing a story about them. Just remember, there are no wrong answers here. Nothing is off limits. Just be as imaginative as you can. Hopefully you've had a chance to write down some of your own what-if ideas now. So what I'd like you to do is take a look through those ideas and pick one that you think will be fun to write a story about. And that's what we'll work on from here on in. Now, after you've picked an idea, I'd like you to think about who's there and where are they. Because the next step we're going to do is look at our character and our setting in a lot more detail. I find it's really important to know your character as well as you possibly can, because that will inform you on how your character will handle situations throughout the story. I mean, if you don't know the character, then you can't write about how they would act in these situations. When looking at our character, it's important to think about what's both on the outside and the inside. So if you take a look at the character worksheet, you'll notice that at the top of the worksheet we talk about the character's name, the character's age, and the eye colour, the hair colour. And this tells us what the character looks like. But then it's also just as important to understand how the character feels on the inside. So ask things like, what's your character good at? What's your character not good at? What's your character most afraid of? How does your character act with other people? It's important to know all of these things so we can make informed decisions, as I said, on how the character moves forward in the story. Next, we'll talk about setting, or the place in which our story takes place. Now, it's just as important to know as much as you possibly can about the setting as it is to know as much as you possibly can about your character. The two things come hand in hand, and you want to know everything you can about both things before you move further into your story. It makes things easier as you get further into the story if you know what your character is feeling and what's going on around your character as well. So how I usually start is by thinking about my senses. I'll ask what I could see, touch, taste, hear and smell if I was in this place. So what I'd like you to do, if you look at the settings worksheet, I'd like you to imagine your character is in the place where the story is going to take place. And I'd like you to write down 3 things that your character can see, 3 things your character can hear, 3 things they can smell, 3 things they can touch, and 3 things they can taste. Once you've worked through the character and the settings worksheet, I'll have another video on how to come up with your plot and how to put an outline together for your story as a whole.